Okay, it says that we are live, so hopefully we are. Hello, everyone. Welcome to
Hello.
yes,
Yeah.
the first
Good
episode.
morning.
The first episode of Commit.js that we will be talking about something different than what we first started with, which was developing our own front-end framework using lit HTML and web components, TypeScript and stuff. So we're actually in the process of trying to create something similar to Angular. So if you are like coming here on the channel for the first time, pretty much you can check out the previous videos. I think that they're pretty interesting. We face really interesting challenges creating our own framework. And I think that we learned a lot, especially we learned how we can use lit HTML. We kind of understood everything that it's doing behind the scenes, so it's pretty interesting if you guys have time now, since it's like quarantine mode. I guess everybody has a lot of time, so
Hmm.
you can follow the journey. But after we finish with the previous commits that we started, I think that it's going to be a good idea for us to create some kind of, I don't know, summary of everything. Uh,
Yeah,
but
surely
yeah,
we covered a lot of stuff
yeah,
and
we still have,
learned a lot.
yeah, we still have a lot to like a lot of things to do. I think that the next time on the next commit we will be talking about Zone.js, and we'll be integrating Zone.js with our front-end framework. So I think that is going to be interesting. But yeah, now today we're going to be talking about this library that I created. What is it, like 1 year ago or
One
something?
question: Who were we?
Sorry.
Who were we?
Ah,
I mean, like,
hey guys, you start. You present yourselves, because yeah, as I said, today is going to be the first episode that we're talking about Angular specific thing, and it's not going to be the last, of course. So probably there are going to be some new viewers that are going to be joining us. So yeah, guys, who are you, and what do you do?
I'm Harry, and I'm part of the Hugh Grant crew, as our other team members here, and pretty much we are hyped on JS. Yeah, and yeah, we decided to do this channel and talk about interesting stuff, more calling, less talking, and that's it. More about me. I am just a JS enthusiast, and that's it. Also, coffee lover.
We all
Yeah, I think we all here are coffee lovers. My name is Alex, and I've been working with these guys for some time now. As Harry said, we really love programming. We love JavaScript. We love the new technologies and playing around with them. And that's why we decided to do this so that we can share our passion with people.
yeah,
And
basically. Okay, so my name is Ilya Idakiev. I do a lot of things. I'm a Google developer expert in web technologies and Angular, and also I do a lot of trainings, public, private ones, and blah blah blah. I mean, anyways, the idea of commit.js is pretty much to, because we love JavaScript, as you heard from the other guys, and we just wanted all of this that we are doing and playing around to be recorded, so maybe it's going to be useful for other people, and also if other people would like to join us. And as I see, there are people who are watching, so this makes me really happy. And guys, if you like want to communicate, just you can post in the chat or just comment on our videos. I mean, it's going to be pleasure for us to be, I don't know, communicating with the community, because after all, this is what the idea of commit.js is. So, yeah, if you try to like Google our company right now, I just want to say the servers are down. I mean, the perfect time for me, like yesterday I was trying to fix the servers, and it turned out that there is like some serious issue, but I cannot go out because it's locked down. So the timing is perfect. But anyways, they're going to be working in a few days, so hopefully people who want to see our websites, they will be able to. But anyways, let's jump into Angular and what we are going to be talking about today. Yep. Should I share my screen?
Yeah. We can get cracking.
So this is my. I hope that you guys can see. I'm not. Oops. Sorry. I will zoom in a little bit. So I'm with two screens. I will try to reuse some stuff in the demo that we're going to be using today from the demo that we have here in the Query Param store. Sorry.
And what is Query Params for? Because I started in deep from the start.
So I'm going to go into this right now.
Oh, sorry.
So the GitHub repo is called Query Param store without S, but the library actually is with an S. So don't. This probably is important for people to know. So what it is, it's like a library that I had an idea, which was like more than 1 year ago, to create something that can manage our query parameters for our applications, because as you know, this is the most efficient way to have persistent state management. Alexander dropped out. I'm not sure why. In our not only our Angular applications, but all of our applications. If we're doing React or doing just vanilla JavaScript, doesn't matter. The URL is the thing that it will always be the same. You can copy it, you can paste it, and the application can use it. And this is very useful if you want to have if you want to your application to just always be in the same state that, for example, the other user was viewing it as, right? Like, this is something that is very useful, and you can put a lot of data here inside the for example, if we go to typescript.org, I'm actually using Canary here because my Chrome is I'm not sure why it's very slow when I'm debugging, so I decided to use the Canary. If we go to the playgrounds, you don't have to know TypeScript, but obviously, since we are talking about Angular, you should already be familiar. But the interesting thing here is that whenever, for example, you're doing some of the examples, let's say that we want to do something like what should we do? Generic function. Alexander, you keep on dropping out. I'm not sure why. Are you online? I guess no. Anyways, we will continue and hopefully he'll join back. So, for example, here, as you see, there are like some demo codes presenting how TypeScript works and how it gets transpiled. But the interesting thing here is that, for example, if I come and I write some function, for example, test, and I say want to test, that is going to be a number. And for example, we'll just return test +1. You can actually see the URL on top changing. Hopefully, you guys can see it. And actually, the best thing is that, for example, if I'm like some kind of person that I want to share this with somebody else and like some students, all I have to do is pretty much just copy this link and just paste it in another tab, and everything will just fall into the same place that we were actually in. As you see, there is like my function here that it's already typed. And actually, even I think that I'm even in the same location that I was before. I'm not sure if they're keeping the scroller inside the URL, but anyways, that doesn't actually matter. So yeah, this is the idea. The idea is to be able to use the URL for storing your state of the application. And one thing that I found really annoying while we are developing web applications, since most of our applications that we developed are pretty complex, we use a lot of query parameters, and from time to time it's very annoying because you have to manage these query parameters. You have to know what type they are, because usually if you're using query parameters, they're always going to be a string. So the URL is going to always be a string, and you have to know how you want to parse this thing. And here, even if you notice, they are using query parameters, but there's like this code here that it's unreadable. And this actually is done with, I think it was called no, it was LZ encoding or something like that, which is a feature that is going to come into Query Params store a little bit later, because currently I just wanted to focus on the main things. We have some kind of encoding, so our URL is smaller, but we still don't have this thing that, for example, here they're using in the TypeScript website. But this is like one of the best examples that visibly you can see how it's useful. And for example, in our applications as well, we use a lot of, as I said, filters and stuff like that. So it's very useful for our users to just be able to copy the URL and just send it to somebody else. And this somebody else can open it and just end up in the same location, and they can see the same things that the other user is seeing. So this is where this for help. Alexander, what is happening?
I have no idea. The StreamYard keeps throwing an error and keeps throwing me out. The whole page crashes. My browser restarted a couple of times. My computer restarted. I don't know what's happening. I'm having some technical difficulties today.
What?
We all are, I guess. Okay, well, hopefully he can resolve the issue. I'll just text him to use Canary. Probably it's going to be easier to use some kind of other browser. Anyways, let's not distract ourselves. Hopefully he can join. Guys, the guys who are watching online, if you have questions, as I said, you can post them. We can see them online, and we can answer you if you have questions. Somebody posted the question mark. I'm not sure what that means, but anyways. Okay.
Probably
So let's.
We're reading the chat.
Oh, okay. Probably he's testing to see, yeah, but we can see that you're typing, yeah. Okay.
Let's hope this time
so there is a library. Sorry.
Let's hope that this time I manage to my computer to
yeah. That's not good. Okay. So how do we actually use this library? As I said in the post that I shared around, I actually did a rewrite a few days ago, and I did a bunch of tests. I have around 80 tests on the Query Params store currently, but I'll probably have to write more, especially with the new features that are going to come. So how do we use it? So the first thing that we have to do is, of course, install it. The installation is via the normal ways, npm yarn, doesn't matter. I'll also create an Angular package soon, but I just didn't have time. And I also have this old video that I talked 1 year ago on Angular Air about the Query Params store. So if you're interested, you can check it out as well. But anyways, so first we need to import the module, and then whenever we are creating our routing, we use the root configuration, and in particular the data property to configure our store, the Query Params store. So how is this done? It is done by using this store config property, and also for example, to configure our individual query parameters, we use the state config property. So the Query Params library, what it does is pretty much it takes the snapshot of the URL or the navigation that you're going to, and it gets the data property, and it checks to see if you have configured a store for the current URL, for the current route, and if you have the state config. So depending on the state config, it knows what query parameters this URL or this location is supporting, and what type of what type of data this is. As I said earlier, what we have inside the URL, we always have strings, and sometimes we don't want to have a string right? We want to kind of convert it to some kind of other value, for example, a number or a Boolean or whatever. And this is where things get interesting. For example, here, as you see, we have a query parameter that is going to be called page, and it's a number 0. That means that automatically the query param store knows that if this query parameter exists, it has to be converted to a number. And this is really cool. Of course, we also want to have, for example, I don't know, other configurations. For example, here what we're doing is saying that, okay, we're also going to have page size query parameter. That's how it's going to be called. And the default value, actually, these are the default values. This is going to be used when this query parameter doesn't exist inside our URL. So this is the value that we're going to get from our store. This is our server we're going to be using. And for example, here we say that we're going to have a string that is going to be 30. And we also have allowed values. These are values that this query parameter can have. For example, if somebody posts like a URL with different values than these ones, it will get ignored. That means that the default value is going to be used. And not only that, the URL is going to be automatically cleaned up. It means that you won't have this query parameter there. It's going to do a navigation, and it will basically put the URL that it's valid, right? So this is super useful because before, when we were doing like our applications, what I really didn't like is that these query parameters, when you're doing like navigations across, they don't get cleaned up, and you have to clean them up by yourself, which is very annoying. So yeah. And yeah, we also have other, for example, other configurations. Like I'm just going to go with the filter, and after the filter, we're going to start working on our application, the simple app that we're going to be developing. So the filter, for example, we say that we're going to have a value. The value is going to be no. So since it's no, we don't have a way to know what kind of type it's going to be. And whenever we have this case, we have the option to say, okay, we're going to have this type converter, and we use the JavaScript constructors, for example, number, Boolean, string, to say, okay, I want this value to be converted to this thing, right? And we also can have arrays. We also can have like multiple values, which is really cool. But I'm just going to end up here. So yeah, the type converter, it pretty much says what this thing that is, for example, going to be the filter has to be converted in. And let's start playing around so you can actually see how it's used. So I created this Angular CLI project. It's not the latest Angular. It's not 9, but that doesn't matter. The query param store, it only uses the router service. And as long as you have the router service, I think that you won't have problems, because I think that in Angular 9, there are no changes to how actually the router works. And I'm not sure if they're going to be doing like changes on how the navigations are working, since they're working pretty fine. So here is the project. Hopefully you can see it okay. If not, you can just say in the comments if I should zoom it in or something, but I think that it's visible. Maybe a little bit more. Let's see.
I think it's good. I mean, like I'm watching you on a wide video. It's fine for me. It's supposed to be fine for the other viewers.
Okay, so let's first start by cleaning up our application. There are tons of things that we don't need here. I actually don't need any of this. What I only need is the router outlet. This is the location, as you know, where our components are going to be presented. And of course, let's create another component. Let's just go to the project. I'm just going to open another terminal, and I'm going to say ng generate component, for example, home. And let me just create, for example, like a module. This module, ng generate module, for example, user. And inside this user module, I'm also going to create a few components. I want to generate a component that's user, for example, list. and a component that is going to be user entity. This is going to be the, for example, edit component or whatever. And let's start configuring our application. So first, let's go into the routing and let's create the root for the default root, which is going to be the home component. So let's say path, which is going to be the maybe this one, path match full, of course, and then say component home component. Okay. And the next thing that we want to do is a path that is going to be user, and of course load children. And here what we have to do is do the dynamic import, because we want to be lazy loading our module, right? And let's say user module. Alexander is, I'm not sure what Alexander is doing. It's really interesting. Okay, anyways. And here what we need to do is then say, okay, I want to get the module, and from the module, I want to get the user module. Okay. Hello, Alexander.
Computer.
So let's see if our home component is going to be visualized. Okay, home works, perfect. That means that what we need to do is have some kind of a navigation, so we can do the navigation between the two paths or the three paths. Anyways, I'm not going to be following some best practices because I want this demo not to be super long. Of course, when you have a navigation, you have to have the core module and blah, blah, blah. But for now, I want to be doing a demo for the query Params store. So I'm just going to say router link. Actually, we should have the router link. I forgot how you write router link. I haven't been writing.
I think that you should like create a tags and add the directive route link to the URL.
Yeah. I actually forgot because I haven't like the last course that I was doing was Vue.js and it was different there. So sorry about that. So the router link, the first router link is going to be for home. And then we also had the router link options from what I remember. Router link active options. And here we have to say that we're going to have exact true, right?
It was something like that.
It was something like that, right? It's not property. It should be known. Why don't we have it? We have the router link. The router link active options. It should be okay. Anyways, we also have the router link active, which actually allows. Oh yeah, you have to have this directive in order to use this, because this is the input to the directive, anyways. And let's say active. This is going to be the class that is going to be applied when this link is active, and we also are going to use the home. So here is going to be user, and let's say active. We don't need this anymore since it's not the empty path. And let's say users or something like that. Okay. And in this module, let's create our routing. So let's say user routing module.ts. And I'm just quickly going to copy and paste this thing. I'm just going to replace this with for child, and I'm going to remove this part here. So I'm going to catch the path, which is the empty one, but I'm actually going to do a redirect, and I'm going to redirect to list. This is going to be actually to users list or user. Probably it's going to be better not to use. It's user here. So inside the navigation, I kind of made a mistake. It should be
with
user here as
well.
well.
With the stream, it says that it's stuck in the wipe command.
Is it? I think that it should be fine. Can somebody?
Okay, I'm looking at it now, and it looks okay.
Probably it's someone's internet is not very good. I think that it's well, because otherwise we won't be able to see anything.
It works. I mean, I opened YouTube now and
okay, stream is working, so hopefully problem you can fix.
Restart. Comment if you have more issues.
So here, what should we have? We have to have a list, right? And inside the list, let's say component, and let's say list component, okay? And let's say path also, wait, component. I think that we should not kind of do it like so. Because here, I think what we used to do is have children, right? And inside children, we put those things, from what I remember.
No, we actually just put them in, and when a specific route has children, then we add them. We just redirect it.
Yeah, okay, I think that's, yeah.
This is fun. It approves my.
So here's going to be the path actually is going to be, for example, add, and we also are going to have another path, which is going to be, of course, we're not going to be using the list component, we're going to be using the entity, and here we're going to have an edit with some dynamic property that is going to be ID, for example. Okay, okay, let's try to see. This is going to be the user routing module, and let's apply it here inside the imports. Let me just, can I do it like so? I really don't like it when it's one line. So inside the imports, let's put our user routing module. Okay, perfect. And let's see if things are going to start working. So, yep, everything looks perfect. Let me just zoom in. Okay, everything is working okay. So let's start using our query params. Okay, so let's configure our query params. The first thing that we're going to do is configure a few query parameters here for our list component. So let's add the data. And since I want to have the auto completion for these configurations, what I can do is import the interface and just use the interface that is from the library. But of course, first I need to install the library. So let's go and install it. So we go to the terminal and say yarn add query params with an S store. By the way, guys, can you mute your sound a little bit because I can hear some noises. I'm not sure from who they're coming. Okay, and we add the library. We wait a little bit. And okay, now we should be able to use it. So let's say import from query param store, and I want to import some kind of I query param root or root. It doesn't matter. Pretty much this extends the the root that is coming from Angular and just allows you to have auto-completion for the data. So even if you don't have this data, it won't be crying, right? And what I can do now is basically say store config. And as you see, we have the auto-completions. I have to say that I have to rework a little bit the interfaces for these configurations, but I think that they're pretty okay now. And now we can start like showing off the library. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to say I don't want to have any query parameters for this root. Let's see what is this going to be. What is this going to do? So let's say no query params, true. And the next thing that we have to do, of course, is import the query param store module so it can actually connect to the router and start watching the different navigations that we're going to have. So let's go into the app module and let's do this. So I'm going to do query param store module. And we also have, for example, this option with config. Currently, we can only provide one config, which is debug true. And this allows us to receive notifications of like what is happening. For example, if something fails or like something, what's happening? I don't know. Is it my internet that is bad? I see that it's disconnecting. Anyways, hopefully the stream is fine.
Seems okay.
Okay, so let's see what's going to happen. So we configured that for this list, so users list, we don't want to have any query parameters. So let's try to add some query parameters and see what's going to happen. And let's open the console as well. Okay, okay, let's try to add tests 1, 2, 3. Why is it working? That's strange. It should not. It should not be working.
Interesting.
Yeah, let me just try something else. I'm not sure if. Let me just go here. It's not module. Yeah, I know why it's not working, because we actually are we're still not using the we never imported the query parameters service, and it's not instantiated, and this is why it actually is not working. So this is why.
Makes sense.
So let's say query param store service, or just query params store, which is the service, and here I'm just going to do query param store.subscribe, and I'm just going to console log. So every time we have a store, we want to be console logging what are the values inside the store. And let's see. As you see, now it's empty, and this query parameter is gone. But let's see. Let's try to add it, and it disappears. Pretty much, it disappears because we have this configuration that we don't want to have any query parameters for this location, and our store is empty because we don't have any values inside. Okay, probably it's going to be a good idea to kind of be able to, even if we haven't imported this query params service anywhere, to be doing the cleanup. So this is something that I will put an issue for later, and I will fix that. But anyways, let's do something more interesting. So let's come here and say, okay, we actually want to have some parameters. So you're going to use the state config, and I want to say, okay, I want to have page that is going to be a number. So it's going to be with the default value 1. And also, for example, page size that is going to be with the default value 30. Okay, we add this, and now whenever we go to the user list, you actually see the values popping up here, because these are the values that are configured for our store. So let's try to see what's going to happen if I come here and I say page equals 10. And as you see, it automatically got updated. And now we actually have this value that is page equals 10, which, as I said, is a string converted to a number. And we actually have it here inside our store. And this means that whenever we are doing some kind of navigation, for example, inside our list, we're actually going to be able to receive this value dynamically, because we have this subscription that it's working, right? So let's see how this is done. This is very simple. So my idea was kind of to follow the idea behind NGRX, the Redux pattern for Angular, and be able to send actions, and the actions, probably you know what they are. They are router.navigate with the query params, and whenever this is happening, for example, to get certain things changed. So let's see how this is going to work. So let's go inside our list component, and inside our list component, let's get the query param store. I'm just going to name it QPS for short, and let's use the query param store. And here I'm going to actually get a few things. So let's get the page. This is going to be a stream, and actually I can do like so, QPS dot, and here I can actually use the select method that it's on the query param store service. The select method, what it does, it allows you to select a certain part, so a certain element from the store. And this is really cool because I actually followed what NGRX does, or it used to do, because I haven't touched it for a while. And what you can provide here is either a string representing the name of the value that you want to get from the URL. Not sure if you guys can see, but this is how the URL is, list page equals 10. So here what I can do is say, okay, I want to get the page, right? Or I can actually use a function and say s dot something. And here usually you can provide an interface. This is generic. So you can actually be able to get the state that you configure. So if you're using like TypeScript, you can also like do this. But for now, I'm just going to keep it simple and just say, okay, I want to get the page. And I'm also going to use the page size. The page size, I'm going to do it with the other way, which is s.page_size. These functions are really useful because you can actually extract a bunch of data and kind of configure it. So, and plus, if you use them, it automatically does distinct until changed, and you also have the option to provide distinct until changed function instead of just doing a pipe here and adding everything like that you want. I just added this because sometimes I want, like most of the times I want this, and it's really useful to have it inside the query params instead of writing it all over and over again, right? So let's say page size, and let's save. Okay, so let's use this here inside the list. So let's say page async, and also page size async. And what I'm going to do here is also, for example, create a navigation. This navigation, let's say it's going to be a button. And this button, whenever we click it, what we want to do is say we want to change the page size. So let's say next page or something. Okay, let's create this. Let's create this inside our component. So let's say next page. And inside the next page, we're actually going to be doing the changing of these query params. So what we need to do here is actually say we want to use the ruler. So at a certain point in future, what my plans are is actually maybe to allow the query param store or have some kind of an external helper service to be able to do the navigations, because what we found when we are developing a complex application is that the router service is not very good at navigating things. And I don't know. I mean, there are some kind of like strange things happening, at least from what I've seen, but we'll see. I'm not sure if we're going to be doing like a router helper anytime soon, but why not? So let's say we want to navigate. And what we want to say also, is that we want to navigate to the same page. So we don't want to change the URL, but here we want to change the query params, right? So what I want is to get this, for example, query params that I have now and change them with the page size. So how are we going to do this? Well, it's pretty easy. Let's say this, for example, page dot pipe. We want to get the first value, which is the current one, right? And also what we want to do is get the page size. So let's use some kind of an operator like combine latest or zip. It doesn't matter. Let's use the zip operator. So let's get this, the page, and the page size. This is the page size. Or what I could have done is pretty much say that I'm going to have a stream that it's data that combines the two here, but there are tons of ways to do it, doesn't matter. And let's say I want to get the first value. Okay, and then I want to subscribe. And here what I'm going to do is get the page and the page size. And I'm going to do my navigation based on this data that I have. Okay, let me import the first. Why is not importing? Okay, let's say operators. And get the first operator. Pretty much this will disconnect the stream after the first value that is emitted from both of those. And then we are going to say, okay, I want to change the query params. And actually what I want to do is I want to say, okay, I want this page to be equal to the page plus the page size, right? So I'm going to modify it. And here I'm going to say the query params are going to be page and page size, for example. So you can control what you want to have in the URL. For example, here you can do an additional check to see if the page size is different than, for example, the current page size, and not put it in the URL and stuff like that, even though here we only changing the page, so we don't have to put the page size. So this is the only thing that we want to be able to do. So let's see how things are going to start working now. Let's go inside our users. Maybe a little bit text won't be bad. Let's say page, this, and then page size. And maybe we should just do a div so it can be on different lines and it can be viewed better. So let's say div.
Yeah. Basic
Right.
standards.
Let's put it inside. Okay, let's see. That looks better. So what is going to happen? Let's say in page size, and you can see how now this thing is changing, even though it's not correct, because it's kind of like wait, let me just remove it. So we start from 1. We add.
You just add the page size. You don't increment the page. You increment the page with the page size. So
exactly. So what
it's working as expected. Like,
yeah, it's working as expected. But the problem is that what I have to do is actually say something like so, right? So what I want to do is actually have the page that it's.
Why are you multiplying it by the page size? Like, I think that this will be when you try to select items. Like when you send the query, I think I'm missing your point here.
So we have like a page, and we have to. Oh yeah, so we don't have actually. Yeah, we don't need the page size. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm still sleeping. I'm still sleeping, guys. But yeah, this is what's happening right now. Let me drink some coffee.
Like the first n elements, there are some APIs that are like query O and skip the first n.
Yeah.
So probably that's the reason that you went with that strategy.
Yeah, exactly. So as you see, this is working, and it's working, I think, pretty well. And the best thing is that if I refresh the page, as you see, nothing changes. And this is the way, actually, I really wanted to do a talk, for example, on ngconf or whatever, about how was my title. Anyways, doesn't matter. But as you see, the application state is the same. Guys, any comments? I don't know. Do you have anything to say?
Yep, a lot, if I have to be honest. For example, the Victor Safkin, which is the creator of the whole routing and stuff in Angular, like his book that's all about the router, and his concept about the routing, as far as I remember, was like the route should represent what's happening inside the interface. So the QPS for real is like one level above the native router that we have, and it allows us to like implement the concept of the routing and stuff, because what Ilya said is like whatever's in the string, that should be what's the state for the user, And for example, in our application, there are cases that we have like multiple tables on the same page, and each table has different filters, different pages. Let's say one table is on page 10, the other one is on page 13, and beside that, we're opening a dialog about a top which also have tables and stuff. And pretty much you can manage it with some kind of store, but let's say, for example, that you want to share this to other people. I mean, the same thing with the example with the code that Ilya showed it from TypeScript in the beginning. But guys, just imagine how much trouble is saved if you have this information in the link. I mean, because you're not able to share your store or your state of the application through any other way. So it's really an amazing feature.
Yeah, it's really a nice user experience and user flow, having the state to be properly persistent, and that's a really nice way to have it be properly persistent. Like alternatives are to have to store your data in the local storage or such, but this is the real, in my opinion, the real way to do it, and it's really easy, and it's really improves the performance and the experience, the user experience for the given application.
Another great side effect for this is like let's be honest, we are all software developers. There are bugs. I mean, it doesn't matter. There are always bugs, but the most frustrating thing is like, for example, if you're doing something on the page and like, let's say you're querying for something, or I don't know, you're doing something and the site crashes for one reason or another. What can you do about it? You just hit F5, don't refresh the page, and a lot of the web is like returning you to step 0 if you're in a form or if you're doing some kind of search, because they're like storing the meta for a table or list or whatever in the local storage, session storage, whatever storage. And when you do a hard refresh or try to open your current step in another browser, there's no way to share that information beside the query string. So that's another great side effect for like foolproof applications. Just hit F5 if anything goes wrong and you're back on the same step, which is pretty awesome.
Another thing about that is, which is a proper benefit for, especially for developers, is like when you don't really just use the query parameters for page and page size, you can use it for, if you have charts, for instance, for the start date, the end date, and stuff like that. And it's really, this really helps debugging when, for instance, someone has an issue with some given parameters. By sending you their URL, they send you they put you in the proper state that they were in when the given thing went wrong, and you can really see what went wrong and see it at the point that they saw it, and it really makes it easier to debug.
Yep, I agree.
Open the code with the navigation.
Sorry, to open it?
Open the code, yeah. Just a thought that hit me is like, what if the QPS has some kind of service? What do you think about the functionality, the QPS to have a service that emits, let's say I'm saying like QPS navigate whatever parameters, and the QPS emits this navigation in another service where we have just one instance of the router. My idea is like, what are your thoughts about doing some kind of like communication from wherever, whatever JavaScript QPS, and another place where we have whatever kind of router? I mean, because right now we are kind of coupled with the Angular router, and I'm thinking, how can the QPS scale for, let's say, other environments, like, let's say, React, for instance?
So this is this is something that I've been thinking about. The thing is that we are coupled with Angular just because it's about Angular, and currently it's using the Angular navigations, and they're in a particular order, and this kind of data is handled. But of course we can export the core functionality and be able to create this and use it with other frameworks. This is something that's we can do, or you guys, the guys that are watching, you can do it, because after all, it's open source, and if you really want, you can just send a pull request or whatever, and we can add this. But we have to kind of like separate things, even though they're kind of separated now. But we have to do another like separations of the core logic and stuff. But it is possible currently, just because we are using like Angular in our project, mostly Angular. This is why it's connected, it's coupled with Angular, but it's currently there is like no other way to use it with React, for example. No, but we can do it. We have to kind of like create a different connectors, for example, for the React router. And we have to be creating the same kind of data structure and providing it to the server so it can kind of handle it, but it's not a problem.
Or you can just bootstrap a small Angular application in your React app and use the Angular navigation.
No, you can just use Angular.
Okay, so let's do some kind of like more interesting thing. Let's actually try to load some data. As I said, I kind of downloaded the JSON server, since the JSON placeholder now is blocking my local host request, probably because I've been using it a lot. And I downloaded actually the JSON server here locally, and I actually copied and pasted some stuff. So let's try to actually serve some of the stuff that we have. And let's see what's going to happen. Let's say start. And now we should be able to have this API that is returning some stuff. And let's try to query based on this URLs, based on the query parameters that we have to see how this can be done. Okay, so let's do it in a very simple way. How should we do it? How? Because I really don't want to add, for example, the other library that we have, the HG resolvers. I don't want to bring too much complexity. So what I'm thinking that we could do is, for example, just do it here inside. No, let's create a user service and then put everything inside the user service. Okay, so let's go inside the projects and say ng generate user. Okay, we should say service user right? Should put inside the user. Yeah. And now let's use our HTTP client. Since we're going to be using the HTTP clients, what we need to do is, of course, provide it. Let's say here inside the imports, HTTP client. Oops. Of course, it's not going to find it. Common HTTP. Come on, HTTP client module, and let's put it here. Okay, and then let's use it inside the user service. Let's say private HTTP client. Okay, and let's say something like load users. Or even though I'm thinking that we might actually be able to, no, okay, let's say load users or something. And what we need here is actually to pass the data. So the data is actually going to be something like page and page size, right? Page number and page size number. And what we need to do is construct our URL for the API. So currently the API for the JSON server that I downloaded, actually, if you want to see it, it's this one. This is the URL that you can actually use to dynamically get data. As you see, it's returning now, but only because I'm making the request from this domain. If I do it from localhost, it's very slow, so I don't want to use it anymore. And sometimes it doesn't work. So if you go to GitHub, this is where you can find it, the JSON server. You can download it, and you can actually, as I said, fill up this database JSON config, and you can use it as a API server for demos, not for production. And yeah, this is what I'm going to be using. So here on localhost 3000, as you see, we have our users. So what we want to do is query those users. So I created this function that I'm going to paste from. Actually, if you go to the GitHub page here, you can actually see a demo project of something that it's a little bit more complex of what we are trying to do today. And here you can actually find a few stuff in the shared. Here in the utils, we have this API query builder that it allows us to kind of parse the queries easier from like a JavaScript object to what the API expects this actually to be. So let's do this. I'm going to use this function. I'm going to paste it here inside the app. API query builder .ts, of course, and it's very, very simple. Here it's using some kind of an interface, but I'm just going to say page or just any for now, because I don't want to be writing so much TypeScript, even though it's something that I really strongly suggest that you do inside your projects. And here I'm going to use this query builder just to be able to create my query properly. The number, and let's say const query. Come on, equals query builder. Let's pass it the data here, and let's import it, of course. And the next thing that we need to do is do our HTTP request. So let me just See how we can do this. So let's say return this .http so now we have to do a GET request. So here I'm going to quickly paste. I'm not going to do any interceptors or anything. Just going to type so localhost 3000 and then say users. It was user or users. Okay. And now I'm going to paste the query, which is going to be the thing that is going to be returned from the API builder. And also what I want to do is say I want to observe on the response, because inside the response, I will actually be able to...
yeah, you have a typo.
I will actually be able to get from the headers the total count of elements that we have. This is something if you want to, for example, use material table and the material, for example, paginator and stuff like that, it's going to be very useful because you'll be able to get all the data. I'm not sure why they decided to do it in the headers, but anyways, this is how it works. So I'm going to say that I'm going to return users, that is going to be the data from the body, and also the total count, which actually is going to be I'm going to convert it to a string response.headers.get, and here I'm going to say x total count. I think this is how it was. And yeah, pretty much this is what we want to do. Let's see if it's going to work properly. Let's test it out. So first, actually, I'm going to try to get all the users where inside and join it. Let's say first, let's import the user service, of course. So let's say private user service, and sorry.
You have a typo on private.
Yep. Thanks. And let's say load users and subscribe and say console.log. Empty object or whatever. Okay, let's do like so and see if something is going to work. Load user is not a function. Are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure that it's a function. Let me just rebuild the project. Probably.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, sometimes I have to rebuild it. Hey, Alexander, tell me, how much time did you lose in trying to understand why something doesn't exist, and it turns out that just the project didn't compile properly?
I prefer not to talk about that.
Right?
It's just it took me a while to start really realizing that this is a probable cause for some issues, and yeah.
Yeah, the interesting thing is actually that we're returning the user, but the total count is it's not.
That's strange.
It's visible, which is strange. It should. Let me just see the request. It should be here. I'm not sure. Maybe the server is not configured to be returning it, or maybe I did not do something properly, but I don't see it in the headers, which is strange. Oh, these are the request headers. Wait, response headers.
Don't see him here either.
Yeah, I think that it's some kind of configuration that you have to start the server with. But anyways, we're not going to do this. We're not going to use it. But yeah, doesn't matter. Okay, we do have our users though. So let's actually configure things now. So what we want to do is be able to have the users here inside our list. So how guys do you suggest that we actually do that? What is going to be the best way to actually have the users? I really like to keep things very simple and use RxJS. So why don't we do something like users and say this QPS.select, and we're going to get the data that we need from the store, which is going to be like an object with actually, let's do some destructuring here, and let's say or no, because this might change. Okay, let's do it like so. Return an object, and here we're going to use the page, which is going to be the s.page, and also the page size, even though we needed page size, s.page size. Okay, and this is going to be the select, which is fine for now. I did it like so because I really wanted to check to see if I have page and page size. Otherwise, I don't want this to be working. That's why I did it like so. But for now, let's return it like that. And let's say, okay, whenever I get this, so whenever this changes, what I want to do is actually do a switch map. And in this switch map, I want to get the data. And I want to use the this.user service.load users and provide this data to this thing, right? Okay, and this is all. Yep. Actually, okay, let's leave it like that, and let's use the users here. Really simple. I'm just going to log them out. Oops. Not like that, like that. JSON with async and then JSON. And let's see what's going to happen. Wait.
What?
Yeah, I'm like what as well because I have this. I haven't saved. That's why. Okay, so users is an empty array, and here we see that actually it's not an empty array. I think let's see why, because we'll remove this. And let's see the request that is actually being sent. So there it is, and it's returning an empty array just because we're saying that
page 76.
Yeah, 76. So let's say 1 or 10. 1. I think 1 or just the default one. Yeah. And there it is. We do have our users, and the users, they should be total count 10. We actually have the total count as well. So there are 10 users currently that are being returned. I'm not sure if we say page 2, it's actually going to return something because we don't have so many users. But yeah, if we go back, we'll just have these ones. So let's limit the page size, for example, to 5. Then we'll be able to have page 1 and page 2, right? So let's do this. So what we only need to do is go here inside the routing and say, okay, we're going to have a page size of 5. And now we should have 5 users, right? They're not very nicely, they're not very are we having 5 users or no? Let's actually
see.
Yeah, let's predict 5. Let's say that we're going to have a div or whatever, or an ordered list with list items, for example. And here we're going to do an ng4, and let's say let user of users async, and let's say user dot username or whatever. Okay, something is not correct though. Oh wait, we are returning all the data. That's why. Actually, here,
just map it and get the proper.
Here it's user's data or something like that, because there are 2 values inside, right? We have the total count and all the users. So let's say something like so, and here we can say users. Yep, TypeScript. Thank you. And then we are saying cannot read property users of no, which is good because this is probably the. Why is it no though? That's interesting.
Because it's an async pipe and you don't have the user set. I mean.
Yeah. Just add the question mark.
Yeah.
Now it's good.
It's still not showing the users.
Yeah. That's the strange part.
Okay, let's see where the problem is. So, did we make the call first? We haven't made the call. Nope. Why is it not working?
It's really strange. Again.
I didn't save it here. Oh, come on, guys. Come on. Okay, so now we have our 5 users. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now, if I press next page, bam, we have our next users. And now we don't have any users, but that doesn't matter. So if I go back, you can see actually, even though I'm using the navigations, everything is working correctly. We can, I mean, the forward and backward button. So our application is really persistent. So this is really cool. So yeah, this is really nice. I really like it because as you see, with so much, like with such a small code, we did a lot, right? We actually can minimize this to just have this thing, right? Just like so, right? This is really cool. I don't know. I really like it. Okay, let's see. Somebody saw actually that we don't have the unsaved file. Thanks for it. But I actually there is like a delay of the stream, and I just saw your answer right now. Sorry.
It just popped up as we saw it.
Yeah. Okay. So what else? What else should we do? We can also, like, for example, do a previous page, but this is simple, right? What else, guys? Any ideas? Should we? Sorry.
Multi-tables.
Oh, multi-tables. That's interesting. Okay, so let's try to query two things for this like list that we currently have. Okay, so what are we going to have? Let's say, okay, we have all the users. So let's say that I want to select the user by clicking it, and for this user to get all his comments or something like that, right? I think it is going to be possible, or even though why do things so complicated? Let's actually just do another table underneath this one, right? Because the other thing is possible, but it's a little bit more complex, and I don't see why we should do that. So in order to have multi-tables, what do we have to do? We have to reconfigure our routing, like our query params for this route. So let's say we want to have 2 things for this page. So let's say first, there are going to be multiple things, right? Multi-true. So the initial value, what is going to be? Well, since we are doing multi-true and there are going to be multiple values, here we can actually do a string that is going to be parsed in a certain way, and we have to figure out what kind of separator we want to use. So I'm going to use this, how is it called? The dot and the comma. I forgot how it's called in English.
Semicolon or something like that.
It was semicolon, wasn't it? Like, yeah, it's semicolon. Okay, I thought the semicolons are this one. It's only the colon. Okay, semicolon. My English, come on, guys. I forgot everything. I'm not used to
memes, you know, like the world champion of hide and seek.
Sorry?
You should know the semicolon from the memes, you know, the world champion of hide and seek programming since forever, the semicolon. You know, like, let's say for...
I don't know that.
Come on, update your Facebook and I'm in 9gag. Subscribe to some cool page.
I don't use Facebook. I don't use 9gag, but this can be your
Facebook now.
What?
Okay, guys, let's continue. So here we're going to say, okay, we're going to have 2 values for this, like for this query param, and they're going to be separated by this with this separator. So the separator, let's say that it's going to be this one. I think the default one is just the comma, so it doesn't matter. And what else? As you see, it's complaining. Why is it complaining? Because we don't have the type converter. As you see here, we're providing a string, but we don't want to receive a string. We want to receive an array with numbers. So let's say type converter, or I'm missing the comma here. Type converter, let's say number. Okay, perfect. Everything's fine now, and we can also do the same here. Let's copy and let's paste it here, and let's say 5, 5. Okay, And let's see how this is going to change things. So as you see now, we're actually getting an array with those values that we put, which is really cool. So let's change things. For example, here inside the user data, what I want to actually be getting from the store are actually the first values, right, from these arrays. So something like so. So we can actually be using the second ones for the other table that we're going to be having underneath. Okay, so let's create the other table and actually wait. Let's use the user service and let's get the comments or whatever. I think that we do have comments. Let's see. Yep.
Yeah.
And let's use those. I'm going to use the same service.
I think it would be better if you use the posts because they're linked to the users, and we can, as a next step, we can try and link the users and the posts.
Okay, let's use the posts. Good idea. So let's say load posts, even though it's in the user service, but as I said, we're not following best practices right now. And let's say data. Actually, let's say any here because I really don't care. Let me copy this and just paste it and say load posts. Okay, and yeah, something like so, right? The only thing that is going to be posted here, and everything else should be the same. Okay, let's use this. So let's go inside our list and let's say posts data. Here it's just going to be page, okay, and here it's load posts. But here we're going to use the second ones, right? Like so, okay?
Yeah, just update so it's up. And also the page navigation, we should update that as well. And we should, I think, add another function, which is navigate to the next user page and then the next post page.
We need another button, so I'm going to do like, I'm going to put this in a div, like so, and let's say we have a heading here saying users, and then we have another div underneath. Maybe just put something like so, or was it like so?
Yeah, just like that.
And let's put 3. Don't do this inside your code. Use CSS. When I see this, I'm like, oh, come on, guys. But anyways, we are just doing a demo here. And posts. Okay, and here post data.
Post parameter.
It was post data, right? Oh, posts. Okay, and here it's going to be post, and like, what do we have inside the post? Title. Title is fine. Actually, Alexander, you gave a really good idea because now we can actually use the query parameters to select the user.
Exactly.
So, you know, this is super simple. Like, if you have to do this, for example, using the ng array, to write so much code, but with query parameters is like so easy. So let's do this. So next users page. Let's rename this, and then let's get next posts page, and let's see how we can rewrite those functions. So let's have this one, and I'm going to copy and paste the other one, which is going to be next posts page. And now we have to do some modifications. So we can either get here the first and kind of like post an array.
Take both of them so that we can properly navigate, because so that we don't mess up the navigation of the other table.
This is how we do it here, right? And here inside, this is the tricky part now, because now, since I'm using the semicolons, I cannot directly provide the array. As you know, the array is going to be converted to a string. So the string is going to be, for example, 1, comma 1. But here I have to like create my string separately, and this is where you have to create your utility functions to be able to create these things easier. But anyways, let's say page, and here let's create our string, which is going to be page 0. Then
join with semicolon.
Sorry?
Just join the array with a semicolon.
Or just join the array with semicolon. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, there's a lot of way to do it. It's
yeah. We also have. Do we have to? Oh yeah. Since we don't pay. We actually this page size we don't use it, right? So we can limit our code even more. We can remove this just because I made a mistake earlier. We don't need this page size. And because if there is like a page size change, we have to manage it separately. So here it's a good idea to use query params handling merge, because we don't want to like remove all other query parameters and have only this one. We want to merge the existing ones with the ones that we actually changed, right? So this is good. And let's do this the same here. But as you know, like what we need to change is the index. So here we're going to use the 1. And yeah, I think we're done, right? It looks fine. And can you imagine, these are just a few things that you have to extract and just use them. Like this, you can extract it to like a custom operator and stuff like that. So you can just be providing the functions. So you can really reuse a lot of things here. Okay, so let's go inside the users. Bam! You see everything works properly. You have 5 posts, and next page is not a function because probably I haven't saved it again.
yeah.
Okay, let's try. There it is, guys. There it is. And as you see, the tables, they know like their pages because you're using the query program. So it's really easy. So now, as Alexander mentioned, why don't we do this thing as he said? For example, click here, select the user, and then show only the posts for the user. If we don't have a selected user, we can show all the posts, so it's not a problem. But before we do that, I really want to have a previous page because it's really bothering me to do.
Yeah.
Let's say previous page, and let's do like so. Of course, we can reuse the functions. Anyways, I mean, there are tons of ways to do it.
We can use one function and just provide parameters. Like it's
a lot of ways to do this, but let's just keep it separated. As I said, when I'm doing demos, I really want to do things really stupid. So it's a pref function.
The pref page is important.
And now let's do this. It's not repeating. I would probably go to like one single function and really provide just the index for the one that we are using here, and just see if it's like previous or next. But like, why not? Let's refactor later. Let's just do it for now, like so. Okay, now we have previous. Now we have previous.
Yeah.
Oops. Yep, there it is. So no, it's not. We're not checking to see like if we have to disable the buttons, but I think that it doesn't matter. Somebody like who's watching, they can do this. They can do this by themselves. It's not so important. Okay, so now let's do this with the user, as Alexander said. So let's say click here and say select user. Select user, provide the user. Let's create this handler here. Select user and get the user. And what do we have to do now? We have to go and configure a query parameter for this root, right? Or we can use, like, for example, a root parameter. This is something that's provided with Angular, but you know, you actually, when you think about it, you can use it as well, because when you're using root parameters, you still have the data from the activated root, and it's still unobservable. So you can almost use it the same way. But since we are doing the query param store, let's do it like so as well.
In our case, I think it makes more sense to use actually a query parameter, because we are staying on basically the same view. We're not navigating to something else. If we, for instance, we open it in a dialog or something like that, then it would make more sense to have it as a root parameter. But right now, in the current configuration, the proper way, in my opinion, is to have it as a query parameter.
Yep, I agree. Okay, so let's say wait, why do we need to? Let's just say user. No, it's going to be complicated. Okay, so let's say we're going to use user ID. Let's say, and this user ID is going to be, the default value is going to be no when it's not selected. And now I just saw a mistake, because whenever I say no, I have to provide a type converter. This is 100% necessary, and this is where these interfaces need to be correctly rewritten. But I will do this. I won't forget. If somebody wants, they can like open an issue on my GitHub repository. But yeah, in case I don't forget. So the user ID originally is going to be no. And if it's not no, then I want it to be converted to a number, and that's all, right? So sorry?
Looks great.
Yep. Let's do this. So here, what we need to do is basically say. So what I want to do is, if the user is already selected, I want to deselect it, and if it's not, I just want to send it. Okay, so let's get from the query param store the selected user. So let's say user ID, and here let's say user ID, and then say this dot user ID dot pipe first subscribe and get the user ID. And here what I want to do is say this dot ruler dot navigate. I want to stay on the same page, and just say query params. And query params, what are we going to have? User ID. So here, if we already have like a user ID, then this is going to be truthy, right? So I want to say no. Or if we don't have, then I just want to use the user dot ID, right?
Why user dot ID? Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
And I think we need to have the query param coming.
Okay, and that's pretty much all that we had to do. So let's test it out to see if actually this is going to be working.
If you have the user ID, you want to set the query parameter to no, and if you don't have it, you want to set it to the ID. I mean, I think there's an error.
No, it's correct. So if you don't have a query parameter user ID set in the URL, you set the one that you've currently clicked on. But if it is set already, meaning that there is yeah, here is correct. There is an issue. We should check if the user ID is the same as the one that's set in the query parameters. If it's the same, then set it to no, and if not, set it to what it is, to what we're providing. Yeah.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So user one. Okay, it's working. User two, user one. Okay, everything's perfect. So now, wait, I think that this is something that we have to see now, because whenever I'm changing stuff, actually, when I'm selecting users, as you see, we're doing an extra request, which is something that we actually don't want to do. Why is this happening? Well, because here we are selecting, and we're kind of like using this complex object. It means that every time there is like a change on our store, we actually want to create this new object and then make a new request. And this is something that we need to actually optimize. And how can we actually optimize this? Well, either we can use, for example, we can just use the normal selects, as they have, as I said, they have distinct until changed inside, right? So either we can do this, or yeah, should we do this? You understand the problem?
It's okay to use them, because our other option is to use to write a distinct until changed ourselves, and when the library provides it, there's no need to do that.
Yeah, so let's do this. Let's just change this, and instead of creating this complex object ourselves, let's have all the things that we actually need. So let's say let's say users page data, users page data or whatever.
Just load it, use page data.
User page, which is going to be qps.select.page, but it's going to be an array, so it's going to be always changing. But anyways, let's say page, and then say pipe map, and let's say data or page 1, and then use a distinct until changed, because it's going to be a simple value and we don't need to write extra code. So let's say distinct until changed, right? Like so. Okay.
Just use page 0 because this is the users, and you forgot the cash $sign in the beginning.
Yep. Okay. Now we need the posts page, right? So this is going to be this one. And let's create the 2 for the page size, even though we're not using them, but anyways. Users page size and post page size. And here we have to say page size, right? Oops, okay, it's not going to work like so.
Yeah, it will work if you make it case sensitive.
Yeah, but let's
just pointing it out.
Yeah. Okay, a little bit of refactoring is not bad.
And you can also now start using the appropriate users page size and such instead of page, I think. Oh no, actually we can't. Never mind.
Okay, so let's say users data, it's going to be a zip, right? Between this dot users page size page and this dot users page size, right? And then we just need to pipe and say switch map, and then just use the function. Actually, if I can provide it like so as well, the only problem is that we need to have it as an arrow function here. Otherwise, the context is going to change, right? So this is possible to do instead of like doing extra calls. And now let's do the same with the posts data. And then use the post page size. Post page and post page size. Okay, and now load posts. Okay, and now everything should be fine. Of course, this should not be inside your component. We usually use another service that it kind of collects all the data, and inside the component we only just use everything. So probably this you can do it inside your user service as well. It should not be in the component. That's what I want to say. It's not working now. Let's see why. Did I saved everything? Query param map. I think something is failing here in the builder. I'm not sure if it's receiving the value correctly. Let's see what the data is.
Probably it isn't.
Oh, it's receiving the array directly. Why? So we're getting the first indexes. Why?
This is really strange. It shouldn't be working like that.
Oh, wait. I know why. Because it's getting it as an object, right? So it's as an array here.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense now.
So we do have to make some changes, but it's not so bad. So let's say page and page size.
Yeah, so, comment. We're really happy that you're enjoying it, and giving it a try is nice.
Yep. Let's actually show the comment.
Yeah.
I'm happy that you enjoy it. I really want to do this for a while, because this library, I think that it's going to be very useful for a lot of people. and I want to bring more contributors to like writing on it and using it so we can find the issues and problems. Of course, we are using it in our projects, but these are just particular cases that we are using it for. So I think that it's really cool.
Yeah, it's really good. And in my opinion, like a problem with the library, it's not actually a problem with the libraries, but a problem is that a lot of people don't really initially understand why this is so useful and why it could be so useful.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think so.
When you really take a dive into the use cases and think about where and when and how you can use it, it's just amazing.
Okay, so oh yeah, so now I see another bug. All of you see it. Nothing is working because we actually used the stupid zip. We had to use the combined latest because zip is waiting for both things to emit, and actually the page size we are not changing it. So let's use the combined latest. Yep. And now hopefully we can have the same thing. Okay, good. So now let's connect the one with the user. As you see, this is one other thing. I'm not sure if you noticed, but I come here, I do something, and Angular gets rebuilt, but I end up in the same state, which is the best thing. Like, this is what we want to achieve. We don't need to have, for example, what was a hot module replacement and stuff like that. I really don't think that it's necessary, because even if the page refreshes, the application should always end up in the same state, right? So
It's a proper persistent state. It's working as expected.
yep. Okay. So what do we want to do now? So let's see our code. So we have our selected user ID, right? And what do we want to do is kind of like update the query whenever we are loading the posts, right? So here we also want to add this dot user ID, right? So, and whenever we have the user ID, we actually want to add it here to the user ID.
Yeah, but I think we should add it like a filter, or I'm not sure how exactly the query builder is configured. And
Don't worry, because the API builder, it knows what to do whenever we have the user ID inside. So yeah,
maybe
yeah, everything is okay. So the only issue is that I actually want to do like I want to say something like whenever I have the user ID. So I'm going to quickly change this to be a function, to have a body, I mean, and just to be creating the data correctly. So let's say or const data equals this, and then I'm going to say if user ID exists, then I want to say data dot user ID equals user ID, even though it's not the best, but it still will work, of course. And let's say data here. Okay, why is it complaining? Because I'm not returning something. Okay, now it should be fine. Let's see. We have actually our users for the first, there they are. We have 2 pages of posts for this user. And
well,
now
what
if
makes sense is when you change the page, when you select a new user, I think the proper logic should be that you go back to page 1 for the posts.
I agree. So let's do this. So let's go, and whenever we are selecting the new user, we also want to say to change the. So we actually need to get more data here, right? So now we have to say, for example, zip, and use the this dot page, right, to get the page. So now we are going to have the page here as well. And we also need to update the page here. So what is going to be actually the page? Well, it's going to be a string that is going to have page 0. These are the users. And the second one is going to be 1, right? Always. Because we want to get back to the first page. Right, guys? or no? You guys are muted, so that's why I cannot hear you. But anyways.
Yeah, actually, sometimes I forget to unmute myself.
Did the connection drop or what? Okay, so now let's remove the states, start from the beginning, and let's select the first user. Okay. Wait, is it working? No, it's removing the whole. It's removing the whole page. Why? Oh wait, because I have to have the semicolon here.
Yeah, separated as well.
Okay, so let's select this user and then go to the second page. Okay, we have user ID 5, page 1, 2, and then select, for example, the first user. And yeah, it's working perfect. We're on the first page. As you see, here we have page 1, 1, user 1. We go to the second page. There it is. Let me zoom in. As you see, user ID, page 1. Okay, and then we select the other user. Or page 3, and we select the other user, and then it's user ID 5, page 1, 1. So that's what we actually want to achieve. And if we don't have a user, we actually get all the posts. And as you see, like we didn't write so much code, and we have this functionality working, right? And it's working pretty good. What else, guys? What else? I wanted to do something. Yeah, let's do this. Let's actually try something like so. So since here we have page size 5, let's say that we want to have allowed values as well. And let's say that the allowed values for this are going to be 5, 10, and 20. Okay? And let's see what happens if, for example, somebody like types something that it's not allowed. So let's say end page size equals 100. Oops, it got removed. And we actually should receive an error or a warning here. It says parameter key page size with value 100 is not found in the allowed values 5, 10, 20. And this is just because we actually put the query param store in debug mode, and it's actually showing us the errors that are like why certain thing got removed and stuff like that. And yeah, this is really cool. What do you guys think?
Good question. Can we provide whatever kind of type converter we want, or we are limited to string, boolean, and?
Currently, we are limited only to the ones, string, boolean, and number. Just the ones that we are going to use mostly. I'm not sure. Is there like any idea behind being able to provide different type converter? I mean, why are you asking? Do you have an example that you might think that is going to be useful?
I don't know. I was just thinking about, let's say, storing the whole store with more complex structure inside the query string, and maybe I would want to convert some stuff in some strange way. I mean, I don't have like a particular example for what I will need that, but just, you know.
I think that I do have an example for this, and we actually saw this thing. For example, here inside the list, whenever, for example, we are but no, this is for a certain structure. Yeah, we have to think about this. Why not? Why not? Probably there is going to be a good idea to be able to use this and provide your own function that is going to be used. So yeah, why not? We can think about this. So one other thing that I want to show you. So there are a lot of options. I'm not going to show all of the options because I really wanted to show the simpler ones. For example, what we can do if we have, for example, nested roots like children, we can inherit those configurations from the ones that are coming above. Of course, the ones on the bottom are always going to be the ones that are going to be used if, I mean, they're going to override the ones that are going to be inherited. I mean, normal. And how is this done? Well, we just put, for example, inherit true, which means that this is going to inherit all the configurations from the parent roots, right? We also saw the no query parameters. What else do we have here? We also have case sensitive. This is something that Justin Schwarzenberger and Brocco basically added. It was a really cool pull request from them. So yeah, this should be working as well. This means that whenever we type page size with different letters, so it's still going to match it, because currently it just matches this thing that we put here, but I'm not sure in a certain way. I mean, at a certain case, you might want to be case sensitive. I don't know. And yeah, let me show you the really cool thing that we have. I call it the binary boolean. So what we can do is say something like open toggles, or let's say, yeah, okay, let's say open toggles. You know what a toggle is, right? Like, for example, a box is on the page that you can open it and close it. And this you can manipulate it via the query params as well, and it's super easy as well. So here you can actually say value. It's going to be 1. This 1 is actually going to be converted to binary, and all these binary values, the zeros and ones, are going to be converted to true and false. And you can actually use this in order to be controlling the open things, the open dialogues or the open toggles on your page. And here we just need to say type converter boolean, and we can actually provide a default value. Default value actually is going to be 1. Let's see what's going to happen. So here we're going to have open toggles. It's going to be boolean. And now if we see the store, we actually why it's not showing? Because why is it showing 1? It should not be 1. It should be actually true and false. Oh yeah, I forgot. You have to provide the multi as well. So multi you have to provide true, because yeah, this is how the binary boolean is converted. And currently we I'm not sure why don't we have it in our store though. This is strange. We should have it, or yeah, I think that we need to provide how many things you can have, even though it should be working without this option, but it's not showing for some reason.
That's really strange.
Should be length, not count, I think. But yeah. Okay, I'll have to fix this. This is another issue. I'll open it later. But if you guys who are watching, you want to contribute, you can open an issue right now on the Query Param store. It should be able to show the open toggles even without the length. So what is the length? Pretty much we say we don't want more than 5 true and falses here, and that's why we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values. That means that, for example, if I come here and if I say, okay, I want to have a query parameter open toggles, that is, for example, 100, I won't have more than 5 values here, as you see. Because we don't need to do all these parts. I really need these 5 values here. So that's all. So let's say we saw how it is with the default value, which is 2. So 2 is basically false, true, false, false. Let's say if we want to change it to 4. And as you see, now it's false, false, true, false, false, right? 5 is going to be true, false, true, false, false. So this is how you can actually be able to configure like this thing. It's really, I don't know, for me it's really useful, because just changing these numbers, you're able to like do like open toggles, close toggles, and yeah, it's kind of like
a good benefit to this is that it keeps your URL tidy, because if you have to spread the whole thing out, it's like you get this giant URL which detracts from its usability and the ease of use.
Yeah, the only issue currently is that you will have to like the only issue is that you have to be able to be calculating those values properly, depending on this array that you currently have. And for example, when you're opening and closing the toggles, to be able to convert it correctly. But I'm not sure, because I think that if you only just provide the array like so, false, true, and something like that, it should be, no, it's not converting. I have to see, I haven't actually used this, but I think that I added a way for people to be able simply to navigate and just not have to calculate this to a binary Boolean. But even if you have to, it's not so hard, right? I mean, it's just one function that you need to write, so it's not so complex. But yeah, I really like the binary Boolean. I think that it's going to be very useful, especially in one of our projects that we have to be creating like different dashboards and to be able to kind of say what should be open, what you can close, and stuff like that. So this is really useful. And one other idea that I have that is going to be for the future is to really be able to encode the whole string. I cannot remember there are different encodings, for example, for the string encodings or string compression algorithms that we can include inside the query param store in order to be able to reduce the size of the URL. Because as you know, like there is a limit. The limit is really big, of course, but there is a limit of what you can actually put there. And we really want to be able to put this like compression algorithm that is going to be compressing this string. So yeah. Okay, so I think, because I see that time is like passing, it's almost 2 hours now. So I think that this was a pretty good demo. I think that the people who watched this video, they are going to understand how powerful this thing is and how useful it can be for their projects. So yeah, guys, I don't know, some comments, something else that you want to see or whatever?
Well, no, I think we covered a lot of stuff, and like the general idea and the premise of the whole thing. So I think it's pretty good. I don't think we should add anything more.
Let me just go through the GitHub page once again, just in order to see if I have not missed some like important configuration, but it's not a very complex library. Oh yeah, the remove unknown. This feature is one of my favorite as well. So this pretty much removes every query parameter that it's not known to the configuration. That means that here, if I come, because now, like look at the configuration, we configured some query parameters. But if I come here in the query param store and I say, okay, I have test equals 1, 2, 3, I'm still going to get this, as you see, as a string from the query param store, which is very useful in certain cases, but at certain cases, you don't want to have this. So since it's unknown query parameter, what we can do is just say remove unknown, not here, of course, here. And let it true. And now it just disappears. Just it's tidy. It's good looking, right? So we don't have it anymore, which is really cool. What else do we have? So there are a few options. Sorry. Okay.
I was saying that this is a cool feature as well because it keeps everything tidy and it's more secure.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So there are like 2 other things that we haven't mentioned. These are the can activate and can deactivate. So whenever, for example, you're using different routes, from time to time you need to have guards. And what you can do is, for example, use the query param store in order to like check to see if you have this query parameter and the value matches a certain value. And if it matches, then you can activate the route. And if it doesn't matches, you just deactivate the route. So this is very useful. And as I said, you can use it here in the can activate and can activate the guards. As so, you pretty much import or like use a dependency injection to get the query param store and use the can activate method on it. And we say that, for example, we want only to be able to activate this route whenever the row is either null or it's an admin. So this means that if we have some other query parameter that is going to be the row, of course, this is a stupid example, but because nobody will be setting the query parameter and using it for like this, if it's very important stuff. So even though we using the query param, you can kind of limit the things. But anyways, actually thinking about it, you can actually limit it, because if you generate this like configuration dynamically before this your Angular application is bootstrapped, I think you can do this. You can actually say, okay, since this user is going to be only an administrator, I want to put this query parameter that is going to be user row inside the query, the URL, and then kind of like limit what is visible depending on this query parameter, which is very interesting. But anyways, yeah, I think you can do that.
Yeah, that really sounds interesting.
Yeah. It's not the way that I would do it, but it's an interesting case. So you can actually...
It's an interesting approach.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach, yeah. So this will return either true or false, and it will block the navigation. It's not very interesting. The tricky part is that you have to provide the current activated root snapshot here, because it's not using the snapshot from before, it's just using the current one. It's getting the configuration from the current one. So this is something that we need to keep in mind. And we also have the can deactivate, which is exactly the same. But in order here to get the URL, if we need a redirect or whatever, we need to use the current root and the current root state snapshots from above. And as I said, it just returns true or false depending on if the query parameter matches one of those values that you provided here. And yeah, I think this is all. Like these are all the things that you can do with the query program store, at least for now. But yeah,
and deactivate seems pretty useful, because in some cases where you need to resolve something, you have to like pass some kind of streams to the component and back and forth and stuff. And I think that this is pretty straightforward with the query params. And if there's like some condition that is fulfilled in the query params, that to be the fact to allow the user to deactivate certain route. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I have another idea though. Let's imagine that, for example, you have some kind of a registration form, and you want to be maintaining the state. So you are putting this registration form whenever the user is typing or just changing the values, you're putting inside the query param store. And you cannot deactivate if the user, for example, hasn't saved this. So you provide it with a dialog, say, oh, are you sure? Because you haven't saved it. I can see that you haven't saved it because you have this thing in the URL. Or you cannot deactivate because a certain property is missing that is configured as a query parameter. So yeah, can deactivate is super useful, and this will become very handy whenever we decide to put the string compression algorithm inside, because actually the users, they're not going to be able to understand what's inside the query the query part of the URL, because it's going to be compressed, but we are going to actually understand what it is, and we can configure it because we know what it is, right? So that's really cool. At a certain point, this will be really nice. So I'm sure that this is not going to be the first demo that I'm doing, or the last, I would say, demo that I'm doing on the query param store. Whenever we put the new features inside, then I'm going to do another demo. But please, guys, like whoever is like watching the video, just try it, use it, try to break it. Like I really want to write new tests, and I really try to rewrite the whole project in order to be able to be easier to understand and for more people to join and just contribute. So if you have any ideas, just let me know, or just put a pull request, like whatever. This is the code. It's like kind of big. I try to put comments where it's possible, but you can easily debug it. And yeah, just try it. Just comment, contribute. It's going to be cool. I really want develop this thing even better.
And also like and subscribe.
Sorry?
And also like and subscribe.
Yeah, if you like the video, also like and subscribe to our channel. We finally have more than 1,000.
100. we have some way to go to reach 1,000, but yeah, we're heading there.
Yeah, I said 1,000 because I put toggle 1,000 here. But anyways, yeah, we have hundreds like followers now, which is good. We have our unique YouTube channel ID, which is youtube.com, of course, c-commit.js. We are going to be doing more and more videos, hopefully useful for you. And if we see that the community is really growing, we are going to provide even better videos, like better content, better tutorials. Just right now, we're just playing around because we love doing it. So yeah.
Yeah. So if any one of you has some suggestions or for what we should look into, or you want us to look into something, you can just leave a comment and.
Yep. Okay, guys. Picks.
First thing first, can you open the link that I sent you in the private chat? It's about the same.
Okay.
This is like basic memes knowledge. Come on.
Okay. Now I understand what you were mentioning.
Yeah.
Okay.
About the picks, actually, I have two. One is more like a concept. It's not like something that's library or whatever. Something that is being like Jameson's pitch right now is like running your single page applications inside workers in the browser, which I think is pretty interesting. And if any of you guys have free time, I mean, like viewers or whatever, just keep an eye on it, check what's going on there, because I think there is a lot of possibilities there, and there are a lot of performance boosts when you did, like do your computation inside some kind of worker instead of the main thread. And the other thing that is a library that I found very interesting is called Striker Mutator or something like that. I'll share the link in a second. So Eli sent it in the private chat. So basically, this is one pretty interesting library that the thing that it promises to do is like break your tests. The concept is that it gets all your return statements inside the functions that you are testing, and it tries to return some kind of random data. And if everything works fine with this random data, it means that your tests are like shit. I mean, because if you return something that's unexpected, your tests are supposed to break. And the thing that the guys that are writing these libraries are defending is like there are a lot of tests that are just for code coverage and doesn't do anything. And with this library, you can like filter out those tests and add additional tests so that you can have like realistic code coverage, not just like some percentage of the count of tests that you wrote. And yeah, the functions are called. So it's really interesting library. And it's not just for JavaScript. As you can see, you can use it with .NET and Scala, and yeah.
That's cool. That's definitely worth it. Alexander?
Well, I don't really have a pick. I didn't manage to choose one. Nothing has really caught my eye this week, so unfortunately I'm skipping.
Well, I don't have. I haven't chosen a pick as well. But one other thing that I really would like to do an episode on is, of course, the other library that I wrote. And you guys, of course, helped so much developing, which is the HG resolvers. So, like, if you have tried using Angular resolvers, you probably noticed that they are blocking the navigation, and it's very hard to kind of understand how many resources are being loaded at the moment, and it's hard to be presenting different kind of loaders on the page and stuff like that. So this is where we had a really serious issue, and I decided to sit down and create some kind of like a library for this, and this is something that we are using inside our projects as well. So here the stack blitz actually is pretty good, and it's showing a lot of cases. But let's see if I think it's going to be visible. This is something that we are going to be reviewing a little bit. I don't know, in the next episodes. I'm not sure when, because I really want to get into creating our own framework, because we kind of left it and we should do it. Pretty much these are the resolvers. You can create these containers and attach different directives to these containers, and then you can follow if all the data is loaded and if it's not, or you can trigger individually the resolvers. The good thing is that basically you don't have any blocking navigations, and you can do some really complex loaders. For example, here, as you see, we have a loader on top and we have a loader here, and then we can click here, and then we have a bunch of other loaders, and this is all controlled by these containers that we have. So this was a feature. For example, if you have a really big screen and you have if you're loading data somewhere that it's not visible, this is really cool because you can actually present the loader on top, and you have a lot of control. You can reload certain parts, and you can still present the loaders, and yeah, you can reuse some kind of logic inside. It's really cool. This is something that we'll do in another episode.
It's really cool, really useful, when you said
it's super useful. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks.
Sorry. You can just the weight that's lifted off your shoulders when you use it, and you have proper resolving logic, and you set it up properly. It's just,
I have to say, it's a little bit complex, or at least it's really similar to how you're creating template-driven validations for the forms. This is how it works, actually. I pretty much use the same logic, but once you start using it, it's super helpful if you have really complex user interfaces. If you're doing a really simple app, probably it's not even, it's still going to be easier for you to do, at least I think so, but probably you can just use another way.
I think that it's really like Angular. It's a bit complex to get into it, but it's really useful for when the whole thing, when your whole project gets big and complex.
Yeah, for example, here, as you see, the
when you use it.
The first example, here, just come and see it. You can actually see that we're just calling this user service load users, and this is our resolver. It's just like a directive. And here inside the template, we're just using it I don't know. I can't even see where I'm using it. Right here, app list resolver. And here, actually, I'm getting the data from it, and that's all. And I'm using this is resolving property to be able to hide and show stuff. So it's really easy, but when you get to more complicated stuff, it's just a little bit more complex, but it's normal. Anyways, that's all. Okay, it was a pleasure, guys. Hopefully the video was useful for you, and we really hope that we are going to see each other again in some of our other videos. Thanks for the people who are commenting and giving feedback.
I really appreciate that.
And
bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.